from the crypt.
What's going on, you well in there, motherfuckers? Oh, them apples. That was large. Charged.
Yeah, so there's no projector in here. This is a, artist. It looks incredible. Ernest, I'd love to hear your thoughts on just how it looks on the screen. It's,
Yeah, well,
oh, it should be right there on the scene.
Okay, sorry about that.
We just saw it. Actually, I saw it a couple months ago in New Orleans on the big screen, and it was made for the big screen.
Yeah.
That was back in the days when everybody went to the movies.
Well, just the tone of it too is so much more fun with the crowd. I've seen it at home many times, but the more people in the room, the better.
It's an audience film. Yeah, we made the film for you guys. So. And
and again, seeing this movie hundreds of times, there's details I never noticed on the screen. Like on Wally's postal outfit, you can see where they ripped off the badge. You never noticed that before on home, but on the screen, where you meant to see it, you notice those details.
Yeah. The film, we shot it pretty quickly, too. Relatively speaking,
40 days, I heard,
some
right?
Folks, yeah, some folks have like 90 days. I've heard some people can't make a movie in less than 90 days. I don't know.
It was like theater. The staging of it as well, the nature of it, contained theater piece. You're in a hangar in your Van Nuys Airport in 100-degree heat, which was interesting. There's some nice stories about the Appian Way. Which was built just to the right of the hotel, of the home. Supposed to be a mountain of dirt. They only discovered, I think by day 4 or 5, that it was mixed with manure.
The old sequence,
Which was troublesome. The air order had to shut down for a minute while they created a new mound.
And then when we got in there, we discovered there were birds living up in the higher levels of it. So we were trying all kinds of stuff to try and stop the birds. First, we would shoot off a blank shot, to quiet them before we started rolling. Then after a while, they got hip to that, so they started, making noise again. And then there was some electronic stuff that they tried out, some ultrasonic stuff to quiet them down. That lasted for a little while, but then they got hip to that first month.
Better than a night shoot though, like that decision to not do it 40 days of nights, right?
That was, when I first read the script, and and I'm talking with Alan and Gil. Alan Katz is right up there. Night shoots, 40 nights would have been murder on the crew.
Brutal.
And I just asked him if there's some way we could find a stage that we could actually shoot it indoors.
You can't tell. I didn't know that until I read it afterwards. It works. Is the stuff in the diners, obviously that's outside, but then everything at the hotel's inside on stage?
Yeah. My production is
Outside
outside.
the hotel is on the stage.
Really, all of it? Yeah, it works great.
Yeah, Christian Wagner, my production designer, he first worked with me on Surviving the Game, my previous film. Yeah. And it was always going to be a motel, but just in kind of working out what the look was going to be, we said, well, let's try to make it an old abandoned church, which kind of keeps in the feeling, the religion is gone, so now the demons have a way of coming in. And the exterior was built so you can see the outside from one basic angle, and then all the interiors, the main hallway, the room, the stairs going up to the bedrooms and everything. So it was all, inside and outside, and it was just better to shoot that way. We could have regular hours. We had 7 a.m. calls, and had 12-hour days. I remember the OJ chase was happening while we were shooting. My sound man had a little portable television that he kept on the sound card, and while that chase down the 405, OJ being chased by the police, the LAPD. So in between setups, we would go down and see what was going on with that.
Best excuse to be late to work. Sorry. Oh, behind this white SUV, it was going 20 miles an hour.
The 405 was murder that day.
That sounds like a John Kassir line.
I'm not touching that.
We should just give you a mic so you could comment as a.
These guys are handling.
John, you can have it, it's okay.
But, you know, just shooting in the studio like that just made it much more comfortable for cast and crew, you know, and we were just able to work, you know, really well. You know, Alan and Gil were my only producers. I didn't have to worry about Joel Silver. He was in Australia dealing with Richie Rich, I think. You know, he had problems on that, so he didn't really have to deal with him until post. You know, but you know, it was Todd Masters who did the makeup effects.
Yeah, we should get.
Incredible. Did an amazing job. Found these great mime artists to play the demons, and you know, they had to go through training because they had these leg extensions, you know, to give them that demonic hoof-like feel, and they were practicing all the time, you know, where we were putting it all together, seeing them, you know, trying to walk upstairs was like really the toughest part for them. So, and we just had fun with it.
It looks so much better. I heard it was Suits originally. The plan was Suits, and then it looks because it looks so much more real with these like prosthetics on the skinny actors and then the face, which is like totally the lit up eyes and everything. It's incredible creature work throughout the whole movie.
Piercings and braiding, and
the lighting.
they all had personality.
Yeah.
You know, they were individuals themselves, which was really interesting.
That's
this one had a nose ring, that one had a triple earring.
Top knot.
Top knot, left knot.
I've always wanted to ask Peter Jackson.
Did he take? Yeah.
You know, because they look, you know, they're like orcs.
Yeah, that's true.
They're like orcs, and it's like years before Lord of the Rings was made into a film, so.
That's totally true.
You know, so.
Speaking of the piercings, I own a set of them from the movie. If anyone wants to see a picture, I can show you. Billy, let me ask you about the casting process. Tell me about how you came in and read the script, and what was your impression?
I don't remember. I honestly don't, because it was in a fabulous blur of having worked with the team on an episode of Tales called Well Cooked Hams with Martin Sheen, and I don't remember which I did first, to be honest. But was it the show?
The show.
Good. Okay, so the movie came after the show. That would be a logical progression. Like, you're insane. We're doing this movie. You should be in it, and that's kind of how that went. And the only thing I recall from, you know, other than these seminal moments and milestones of the 90s, low-speed chases and hijinks was, I think it was for the show, I asked if I could be paid in early Apple equipment. It was like, I want one of those computer things. That looked interesting. Can I get one of those instead of just, cash money? And they were like, yeah? This guy's nuts.
I should have asked for stock options.
That would have been better, but they didn't sweat.
Well, I really wanted to work with you because I had seen you in Dead Calm.
Oh yeah. Incredible.
And, you know, I'm looking at that movie, I'm saying, this is one of the most handsome men I've ever seen in a movie. And he plays this psychotic, crazy motherfucker. And did such a great job. And you had hair in that film.
That was my hair, which was even rarer.
Yeah.
And so you're working to do the right thing, and I said the same thing, my friend. So,
Yeah. When you came in, it was like a thing. I think you asked us if I wanted you to wear a wig. And I think he tried a couple. I said, nah, man, go natural.
Which was brave. There were not many slapheads, white boys with, tight cuts at that time. You either considered no, it took a minute to catch on. You were either like a skinhead, genuine skinhead, or an escaped convict, or you had some health issues. We
thank you.
all of the above.
We thank you for being a trailblazer in that.
It was handy. It was hot. I told you. It was greatly appreciated.
Can I ask you on Deadcom, I want to ask you about, I've heard for the inspiration for this character came from Aladdin, for the collector, like there was one idea that you had?
Yes. Around the same time, I had thoroughly enjoyed Robin Williams in Aladdin, and it was then that I realized that animators animate to actors. Actors don't say the lines that have been drawn, because clearly he was improvising in the booth the entire time, which they couldn't draw fast enough. And the idea of him being a supernatural being who could conjure and pull anything from the ether to support his objective reminded me of what the collector was playing at, and I thought that pacing, the timing, the comic timing, the pacing, and the quick change, the catch release, which I thought worked even better with horror, because it creates this constant false sense of security, and I still haven't seen anything like that.
It's rare. Bill plays it so earnest, and that makes the stakes real. And then you're playing it so fun that it gives a super unique tone, where it's actually scary, but like very funny too at the same time.
It's more seductive.
Yeah,
right. You're really attracted to the personality of the demon, and that's the thing. The devil was supposed to be the master seducer.
Ernest, tell us about the rest of the casting, because it's a stacked cast. Pounder and Dick Miller and Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah.
Charlie Fleischer.
Charlie Fleischer.
He's crazy.
I think he was here out there.
Was he? He was here.
He was here, I think I said that.
Wow. It was great. Well, first of all, for Uncle Willie. When I was who am I going to get? And when I saw that Dick Miller was available, I gotta get Dick Miller. I grew up looking at Dick Miller, especially the Roger Corman films, and he was always that guy in those films. I've seen him in all those movies, but who is he? And he was such a dream to work with. He was so cool. And Brendan Backey, I had seen in a Japanese science fiction film called Gunhead, and got it for that. And Cece was great. Gary Farmer, I'd already seen in some films, so. And it was great to mix with the cast. And John Shutt was available. Am I forgetting? And then Jada, when I read Geraldine, I said, she's gotta be small, but she's gotta be tough. And who I wanted for Geraldine was not who the studio wanted. And when I was trying to figure out who was going to play her, I went to see Venice to Society. And she really blew me away in that. I just said, yeah, that's her. So contacted her. And she was game to do it. But we had to sell her to Joel. Joel was the one who was doing a lot of the casting. Gil and Alan met her and, loved her, but we had to sell her to Joel. And so I took her to Joel's office and I said, okay, just charm her. And she came out and got the role. She kind of threw me for a loop because her hair was dark brown. And then I think a couple of days before we were going to start shooting, she called me up.
First day. She showed up looking like she showed up.
Well, she called me up first. And she says, I gotta tell you something. I said, what? She said, I colored my hair. I said, what'd you do with it? She said, it's platinum. I said, what? Platinum? Come over here. The place I was staying at. I said, can you come over here right now? I gotta see what this looks like. So she came over and it was platinum. And I said, but I saw that there was something there and I said, okay, this can work, but put some color in it. You know, don't make it platinum, you know, shockingly white. Make it, you know, make it more blonde. And she did, and it worked. It worked great with her complexion. And it just gave her that, that rebellious streak that that Geraldine needed, you know, because you needed somebody like that, somebody who was totally against the rules to be the next Demon Knight, you know. So, but you know, I think, you know, most movies back in them days, the black folks in the movies were the first folks to die. Especially black women. And I just knew that if I put her in that role, nobody was going to expect her to be the final girl. And so it paid off, you know, because and you know, we teased a lot of times, you know, the fact that she could go, you know, she could get killed, she could be seduced and become, you know, one of the collector's minions, you know, and then, you know, it always, I think the scene where Bill Sadler plays to her and tells her, you know, that you're the one, you're the next one, you know, that always kind of brings tears to my eyes because I think they both play it beautifully, you know, right before he gets killed. And then, and yeah, Bill Sadler, you know, it was great working with him because I had seen him, he always played bad guys in movies. And then I'd seen him in that movie, there was a movie that he did where it was him, Ice-T was in the film.
Trespass.
Yeah, Trespass, yeah, and he's brilliant in Trespass. And he always played really bad military types. But he was so cool. He was great to work with. And he brought a haunted quality to it, which was with the demon, you know, that haunted, tired of being pursued that everybody had to, you know, that he would have.
That 1,000-yard stare kind of.
Yeah,
from World War I,
yeah.
The weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Literally.
He had the gravitas, she had the modernity, but it took your lens on the world and your self-awareness to be able to identify that and fight for those things and make it this, you know, lasting piece of cinema. It's those choices that make this thing work.
Well, you know, what John Huston said, that 85% of directing is casting. And it's so true.
The rest is catering.
Yeah, that's it. Because, you know, you hire the right folks and you just let them loose, you know, set them loose, you know, staying within the story. But it's always great to see what actors bring to it. It's always great to see what you brought to it. The whole thing with the sponge in your mouth, that was your idea. That was like, well, it's the spur of the moment.
You know, you got to clean a blood seal. What are you gonna use? Yeah, there was quite a bit of improvisation, and I hadn't worked I've worked on many collaborative sets, and this was by far the bravest on your part to be able to just keep. You know, I kept testing. Like, can I go here? You know, it was. The character was crafted and written with this, you know, duality, and was certainly funny at times, but was dark and more mysterious, I think, on the page. And then we just pushed the comedy to, you know, musical theater levels. And I just kept testing to go, are they going to stop me? And it's like, is someone going to say, get the hook, just, you know, stop? And I just kept being encouraged to continue. And that was a very brave and on your part, and liberating, and encouraging on all of yours. Thank you, gentlemen, for pushing that. I remember, you know, a lot of people quote a lot of lines to me through the years, and Hodunk, Podunk, well done, Emily. Certainly one of the favorites.
That's my wife's favorite line.
And you know how many times I've written that, and I'll do it afterwards for you. And, booth they have over yonder. I remember you saying, you know, we gotta lose the coat, we gotta lose the duster. That's where that came from. We couldn't do the, or maybe I didn't want to wear the damn coat the whole movie. I was like, I want to get rid of this goddamn thing. So we got, you know, so fuck this cowboy shit became the cornerstone of, it just continued into a little dance and a tirade, but it just, there's quite a few of those pearls that stemmed from you setting the table and me, you know, walking all over it, so thank you.
You know how often I post, every year I post that whenever the Cowboys are eliminated from the playoffs. I get so many likes.
Ernest, Bill's also talked about how much you, like, the trust that you put in the actors and letting them do stuff that they're, like, play with ideas like that. Can you talk about how, as a director, you can let the actor go on something that you didn't maybe plan on initially, but that becomes much better than what you could have planned, like what Billy did?
Well, you know, that's, like I said, you know, casting is, you know, most of directing. And you know, the directors that I've been influenced by, people like Martin Scorsese, you know, John Huston, you know, they put so much effort into casting. I mean, to me, casting is probably the most painful part of putting a movie together. Every film that I've ever done, the casting has always given me nightmares. Because I don't know if I'm going to get the right folks, but you get the right people, and you want folks that understand who the character is that they're trying to create, and can take it a little step further. You know, go further than what's on the page. You know, the page is only a blueprint. It's a rough blueprint. You know, when you get on the stage and you're dealing with personalities, and you see what each person can bring to it, you know. And I just felt that letting you make the collector be funny, but more seductive, you know, that would pull the audience in, and make them really appreciate that character so much more. Because I wanted them to, you know, I wanted them to kind of like hate you a little bit, but actually fall in love with you. You know, because that's what the devil does. That's what demons do. You know, and so yeah, it was. You know, we go in the morning, rehearse it. You know, play with this, play with that. You know, I remember CCH with the arm being torn off. You know, okay, so we poured the vodka over the wound, but then she said, I'm gonna want a drink. Can I ask for the vodka? I said, yeah, go for it. And she said, give me the bottle. So it was things like that that, you know, when I'm working and I'm seeing that, I'm like going, yeah, that's what it is.
Is Supper Time on the page, or was that her on the, like?
I think that's on the page.
On the favorite.
Yeah, but it's her delivery that just does it, yeah.
What scenes were particularly hard to pull off? You know, with all the physicality of the collector, or just with all the effects?
I remember problems with any scenes with the demons walking up the stairs. Because that was, with those leg extensions, that was really hard for them. Gosh.
Detach all. A fabulously toxic prosthetics remover, you know, like bathing in, you know, early chemistry. It was interesting. You know, just being, you know, appliances in the day.
For the climax.
Things have changed through the years, and but it was, yeah, it's like, that was what we do. And I thought that for a minute I was expecting a staple gun to, you know, for attaching, but no, it was just good old-fashioned glue. But that stuff's always hard to work with, in heat, and
At least you didn't have to have prosthetics for much of the movie, right? Like,
what's that?
at least you didn't have to wear prosthetics.
No,
for, like,
exactly.
some of the
iris here or something there, you know. But just watching, just the sympathy for the creature effect, kind of the team, and working within it, and then waiting, and those damn stilts that they had, with difficult leverage on the steps.
Yeah.
Nothing but respect.
It was always funny because, you know, their tails were radio controlled.
Oh, yeah.
And so you always had the assistants off to the side with the radio, you know, like model airplane radio controls. And, but you know, when we did the final sequence, because we had to change it, because the original, it was always, we were supposed to see the true form of the demon, you know, the non-human form of the demon. And the original idea was to actually try and create a creature of fire. But we just didn't have the technology to do it correctly. But also, we, in the test screening, we began to realize that it was so, bless you, it was such a non-anthropomorphic form, they wanted to see him get it, you know? So the thing was that as he melted and went just before the blow up, I came up, you know, we said, let's go back to a more typical demonic form. And I actually asked for a miniature version, kind of distorted version of the demon in Walt Disney's Night on Wall Mountain in Fantasia, because that to me scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And it's still a pretty terrifying image. And so that's what we did, you know. We had a miniature set of the main room of the hotel, and the demon was actually a rod puppet. And the explosion was done by a guy named Joe Fiscosil, who had engineered all the explosions in Star Wars, all the spaceship explosions in Star Wars. So it was cool working with him one night, you know. So yeah, that was like the toughest part. And then, funny story, for, you know, the whole idea was that everybody's weakness was supposed to be their downfall. They were supposed to turn into a demonic version of their weakness. And so Brenda Backey's character, what we ended up with on the screen was like a last minute inspiration, because I wanted her, I mean, she's a prostitute, so how she makes her living. The original idea I had was that I wanted her to be a demon where it would be a vagina dentalis that would open up, thing style, and a tongue would come out and wrap around Wally's neck and try and pull him in. I've been watching a lot of Japanese.
Akira a little bit.
No, The Legend of the Overfiend. And when I proposed that idea to Gil and Alan, they thought I was crazy. They said, oh my God, who is this guy? And Todd and I, we did the drawings for it. You know, it was all, we were going to do it. And it made sense for the character. And had never seen it in live action before. But then one of the producer's wives saw it and said, no, you are not going to put this in the movie.
I heard it was Donner's wife.
Yeah, it was.
Rose was okay with it though.
Lauren says that's hearsay. She says she's very surprised that story's come out.
Yeah, so the best thing we could do is just come up with, okay, gotta shoot her in the head so the eyeballs can fly out. And as long as you take out the eyeballs, because you gotta get rid of the eyes, the windows to the soul. So yeah, so that's that's how that turned out.
I also want to recommend, there's a novelization of Demon Knight that gives a backstory to a lot of characters, especially Cordelia, where she was a school teacher originally, and the town was going under, so they had to close the school. That's the only work she could find. So I recommend that novelization. There's a lot of good character work in there.
I didn't know that.
Not everyone can be as nerdy as me.
I'm learning so much tonight.
Okay, I wonder if you guys both might be able to talk about the unique set of tools that horror affords a directors and actors to play with that I think unique to the genre.
Tools?
Just I think the stuff you can do in horror is unique in terms of like what performance-wise and as a filmmaker, as an actor.
Well, especially in this, where you're mixing tones of comedy, action, and horror. You kind of can do a little bit of everything, but find that balance. So how do you find that balance?
Sure. Ernest?
Well, the great thing about horror, science fiction, anything in the fantastic is like you can let your imagination go wild, especially, there should be a groundedness to it. But for me, horror film, fantastic films, it's the perfect surrealist cinema, and for me, it's a great playground to play with images, to play with feelings, to take off-the-wall ideas and make them real. Try and make them, present them to an audience, and struggle to make them work. So for me, it's a lot of fun. I grew up on horror films.
Yeah.
I grew up seeing the earliest movie I remember seeing is. Movie about a giant octopus that destroyed the Golden Gate Bridge. Ray Harryhausen film. And it came from beneath the sea, 1955. And I grew up seeing Harryhausen films, but I was always amazed by the films that are fantastic. But for me, it was always the craftsmanship. I was always amazed at how the movies were made. And as a kid, whenever I could find anything that talked about how these movies were made and the concepts behind them and stuff, I just ate it up. And it was, as a kid, I drew my own comic strips, and I made my own puppet shows, so I was always telling stories. But the great thing about horror, the best horror, is about us. It is about us. It's about who we are, what affects us, what moves us, what makes us who we are. So, the best horror is always about what does it mean to be human. And each one of these folks in this film had to deal with that. You made them realize who they were as human beings. Ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. So.
I think it's about making out. It's called physical media for a reason. Right? It's like, back row. She's gonna jump, you're gonna giggle, she's gonna jump in your arms, you're gonna giggle, she's gonna hide, you're gonna cuddle. Don't take it so seriously. Funny is money. And I like steak and cake, you know what I mean? You gotta balance these things.
That too.
You just I feel like you can get away with it. Even in dead comedy, you get away with so much because of the tone. But it's true. You get a unique ability to. I think you especially have a unique ability to take these characters that may be one thing on the page and make them so yours.
I just think horror that takes itself too seriously, or just mutilation porn, or whatever the heck is passing for horror these days, it's a flat line. It's not. And jump scares are a cop out to kind of hide the fact that you're not leaning on story or have compass within that. So it's a race to the bottom. If you don't have, I think, the sensibility to temper. But if you do, you can. This is where good taste is needed most. Trust me. And thank goodness we have it, and in our homes and our producers. And so the I don't know. I just think that it's part of it's a responsibility. It's not just a public service, but you got to the reality can be scary for many. And this is a place to kind of get it out. I heard there was a study saying that we need our horror, apparently, culturally. We need that this is an age-old process and system of storytelling since cave drawings, and sock puppet theater was to you got to get a scare on it. Maybe it's an adrenal rush or something that is needed in us that we crave. Cool, but you'd also need the release and the. So I encourage. Current and future filmmakers and lover of this lore to borrow from this playbook and balance your narrative with the catch and release. You know, you need the relief in order to earn the proper scare, or just make the most of that jump. You know, I can't. You know, you look at something like Zombieland is funny.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, I love that film, but it's a different kind of animal. But they work. They just do. Go ahead. It's kind of a shitty ending to a really good beginning. Right? The beginning was great. I kind of fell apart at the end. But I really appreciate the applause on this. Thank you.
Now, Billy, your most recent movie, you're playing Marlon Brando. You know, as Marlon Brando playing as the Godfather, you seem to have a knack for playing characters who make offers you can't refuse. What's an offer you don't think you could refuse?
A sequel to this. Come on, guys. It's, you know, we reconstitute, right?
So many 1,000 people over the 30 years, I'm one of the writers, have come up to me and once they do that and ask me. I'm sure they've done it to you also. And to Ernest. It's impossible.
Well, it is based on the
rights issue.
The rights. However,
story.
You don't go to a movie that was advertised from the guys that brought you Demon Night, would you? Oh, just saying. Maybe not. Okay, forget that. Call Dick Donner's wife and ask her what we should make next.
It works so well. Like the tone, I think, is that unique horror tone that came out in the 80s and 90s, which is really scary and also really funny. I think it even works better now, maybe even than it did then. But yeah, if there are any distribution executives out there, we should find the right situation.
Now, if you could, someone gave you the keys, what would each of you do with it?
What would I do with the key?
Well, I'm saying the key. If someone gave you the keys to a sequel,
Say key.
someone said, here's all the funding, here's all the rights, everything you ever want to do. What would you do?
Oh, we'll do another one.
To do another
Yeah,
one?
I mean, what happened to Geraldine after she left? You know, I mean, and well, Danny's gone. Danny almost went with a sneaker. Then go to the city, it'd be an urban tale.
Yes, that was.
Well, she wanted to go to
the idea.
Paris. She has a kid. She always wanted to go to Paris, but it would be interesting if you know, let's say Geraldine got married, had a family, but you know, she's still keeping the demons away. She's you know, a mother, and her kids don't notice. At nighttime, sometimes she goes out the door when they're sleeping, and you know, she's fighting demons and keeping away from the house.
I hate to do this, Ernest, but I can't stop myself since I'm one of the original, writers. She can't be married and she can't have kids and be the life or death of all humanity depends on her staying ahead of him.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
We can workshop it.
I mean, you know, yeah, she has whatever her life is. You know, it continues. So, but you know, be interested to see if Jada would be interested in reprising her role years later. You know?
The devil always can come back.
I think we're going to do some questions from you guys now. Unless you guys have anything else you'd like to say, I think it was incredible to see with the crowd, and especially on the screen and the studio. But yeah, if we've got questions from any of you guys, go sure.
Did you keep anything?
Bill did. Yeah, we know Bill did. Jeff, hasn't they kept anything from the movie?
For a time, I think I used that belt for a while, and
It's a nice belt.
nice belt, it's a good belt, and those were my, U2 kind of glasses that I brought, so I brought them and I had to break them, so I did make those. That's another one of the lines that we came up with. No, I made a deposit rather than a withdrawal.
I think I somewhere have some pre-production creature design artwork, you know, I think, at Todd Masters.
I have a weird drawing of a vagina on the shelf. I never knew what it was, but I said, that's really bizarre.
Actually, I think that might be one of the drawings I have.
I know, that's what I'm referring to. What on earth?
I think everyone
I
in the
held
crew
it
got
this
one.
way. I thought it was a mouth. I had it, I was holding it horizontally.
Did you guys ever have a thought about doing a prequel series about the other 6 keys that were collected beforehand? I think that's a lot of good, boy, it hasn't been talked about.
He asked if they ever thought about doing a prequel about each of the previous 6 keys.
Yeah, of course.
We could do about the key nights in medieval times.
I mean, the whole thing is that one of the things that I loved about it is that, you know, we created a mythology. And, you know, you guys started it, so it could, a lot of things could, theoretically, a lot of things could happen, but there's a lot of things standing in the way.
Yeah. Sure, up there.
Hello, thank you for coming. This is really a treat. Billy, I was wondering, did you and Jada, how did you prepare for the little dance scene you did?
We didn't. Well, that was another one of those, didn't we just kind of come up with, that was another improvisation. That came up on the day. Secretly, I try to make every movie I do a musical. It's true. It happened in like weird little arcs in TV shows. It started there. Boston Public, Charmed. There's a musical number in every one of my little things. For some reason, I use Jedi mind tricks on folks. I think a musical number is really needed. And for some reason, they say yes all the time.
Tombstone.
Tombstone. There wasn't a song. There was a recitation,
But it was on stage.
Yeah, it was on stage.
The stage thing.
Yeah, that was just, we just busted that out on the day.
It was good.
She's a great dancer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Billy, was it your idea to kiss the demons, or he told you?
I'm sorry?
Was it your idea to give the demons a kiss?
To kiss the demons? Yeah. Mine, sadly, because they tasted terrible.
Oh, yeah, right there.
I wanted to ask, why is it so hard to stream Tales from the Crypt? Like, it feels like
How much time you got?
Look at him.
Yeah, I don't know how tired. It's the rights, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's the rights between all the producers, and then, you know, streaming obviously wasn't a thing back then, so it was never in the contracts, and HBO.
It's TikTok and Silver and Zemeckis and yeah.
Those guys are not the problem. Man.
Oh, really?
No.
I'll explain it to anybody who wants
If you
to
want to know more,
about
read about Kristen's book in 2027.
or I can explain it to you outside.
Yeah.
You'll get it quicker, so.
Sure, right there.
Billy, one of my favorite actors, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
This movie was super important to me as a child, actually. I mentioned to these guys as well. Just an amazing movie. My question is kind of outside this, but what's your favorite character you've ever played, and what was it like? What was David Lynch like?
What was what?
What was David Lynch like?
Great questions, and thank you.
Favorite character, I think, is the Phantom. Just because I really connected and loved kind of preserving the history of a white hat hero, you know, moral compass, well-adjusted, you know, dude, at a time when there was a love affair with the anti-hero. I was, you know, I grew up on John Wayne and Fairbanks, and like, you know, a joie de vivre and a joy of do-gooding, and I thought that was cool, and that he had no superpowers. He was like Happy Batman. No issues. Like, oh, your parents died? Is that, you know, parents died. News. You know, what's the deal? Go save the thing, you know? And I found him cool because he found joy in the task, it wasn't about him. But the caveat to that is my favorite experience is this film as an actor. Because truly, I mean, this was the most, no, I mean, it was, as an actor from a purely selfish lens, it was I was young, you know, and it validated instinct, and I was given trust at a quite a young age. I was, I don't know, 20 what, 5, 4, I don't even remember, 20 something, 95, how old was I? I don't know. 97, I was older. I look young. Which counts. It was, it helped shape a lot of other work that followed. A confidence to bring, you know. And I love this experience, and I love the product. And so it's always a caveat. Like, what's your favorite character? What's your favorite movie? I say, Phantom, Demonite. That's the you know. And they're both of these seminal '90s offerings. And I'm glad there's love for the Phantom. You know, it took a while, but like people come around to it. Anyway, yeah.
And then
Oh, what was the other one? David Lynch, man.
Yeah, what was he like?
He was amazing. And it took an artist of that caliber to buck the trend of seemingly safe choices, which is to make not just last year's film, but cast the person who everyone, like, I was known as crazy guy on a boat. That was me. No, you just add water. We need a, you know, psycho at sea. You call me. And I had to turn down a lot of, like, you know, dumb bad guys in big movies, but I was just like, no, I don't want to keep playing psycho husbands or whoever the hell. And his show, everyone was nuts. And he cast Crazy Pants to be the straight guy, which was so smart. You know, it's like, I need a Gary Cooper. And I was like, at last, you know, someone, you know, I came to town to be Gene Kelly and, you know, John Wayne, and catch a pie in the face and kiss the girl. Hey, you do cuckoo on a boat one time, that's you, man. You're the guy just add water and nutbag. So, bless him for going, you know, I need an old Hollywood, straight, heroic, romantic guy. And that was like the first time someone asked me to do that. And of course it was David Lynch, because he had the, you know, wisdom to not do what others do.
So it's like that character was so outside the box.
Right?
It's amazing.
Thanks, man. John Justice. And we put what was in that? What was in that first episode? A song. Just saying.
Wasn't on script, yeah.
I wonder what.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What happens to the cat? Feel free to lie to me.
She wants to know if the cat was okay.
And you can lie.
I think she got out.
It looks like when she's getting on the bus, she's carrying like a carrier.
The closed cat case.
Closed one, though.
Remember, there's a lot of birds, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, that right there.
Hi. Mr. Dickerson, so you mentioned Jada Pinkett Smith being really important in being one of the only black final girls in horror. What is something that you think horror of today needs?
Great stories. Really need great stories. What's great is that horror is finally getting the love that it should have gotten a long time ago. It's finally being recognized as a genre that demands respect. I mean, the literature had it years ago. I mean, with Edgar Allan Poe and folks like that. But the cinema, you know, because there was some great movies that came out this past summer. You got Sinners, you got Weapons, you got all these great films that are really good horror films. And, you know, I just want to see more stuff that's outside the box, different. You know, I want to see more horror films from different cultures. I want to see more people of color making horror films. We were in Cannes this year, and we saw horror films from all over the world being advertised. So it is huge all over the world, or it's being sold all over the world. I don't know how much they were able to sell. But, you know, the good horror always makes money. It always gives people something to think about. And so I just want to see more. I just want to see the genre grow, and I want to make more.
Thank you.
Sinners, I think it seems like it's very inspiring, but it's like, you know, a lot of...
You know, I met Ryan Coogler, we met a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of came up with this idea, why don't we do, it'd be great to have a screening, Demon Night, From Dusk Till Dawn, and Sinners. Yeah.
But it should be in a remote hotel. 30 tickets. A raffle, like Willy Wonka. I think they film the reality show. Yeah, see what happens to the cat.
Yeah, go, sorry.
I just want to say I love the movie so much that I got it tattooed on my hand.
Wow.
And my question is, have you ever experienced anything paranormal, whether it's on set or in your personal life? Or Billy Zane, specifically.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Or anything you can't explain, or that was just weird or out there?
No. Yes, sir.
Were you guys afraid to get sued by Jesus, or how come you? They always say like the carpenter, and you know, even though it's clearly Jesus.
Well, everybody knows who he is. You know. Actually, Dick Miller did ad-lib a line when Breaker is telling them the whole story, you know, when Jada says, when he said the blood, she said, and it is the blood, that's.
Yeah.
And then Dick Miller said, oh, Jesus Christ. Well, we thought it was too much on, we cut that. So we just thought, oh, no, it's too much on the nose.
That's the line. Okay,
Well,
that's
he
what
kind of
that's
wouldn't
what
Yeah, he kind of, oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
I think we're about to go out in the lobby. I just want one question last for you guys. You know, we do this monthly repertory horror series to get stuff like this in front of audiences. I'm curious for both of you, what movie you might want to most see in a theater, like some older film you'd love to see in a theater again, or that maybe you've never seen in a theater.
Della Morte, Della More.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite horror films.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Our Child Catcher is probably the scariest.
Cool. Well, let's give these guys applause.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.